Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 96. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and as always, I'm joined by Dory. How you doing, Dory?
Hello, I'm doing great. Had my D&D game today as usual, and we're going to talk about some of the games I've been playing. I was so excited about the time that we've spent on this podcast. I drew us a picture, but unfortunately a rogue AI took it and destroyed it. So now I'm sad, and I have to go destroy the rogue AI, which is produced by the Phoenix Corporation. That's right, everybody. We are talking about Replaced and Pragmata, so we're getting super sci-fi this episode. But we're also going to talk about current sci-fi-ish stuff with Xbox and all of their recent rebranding plans, Xbox Game Pass news, and all that kind of stuff. Plus, very exciting news for yours truly, and of course Seb and many others. Black Flag Resynced is officially launching in July, which is perfect. So we'll talk about that. I'm very excited about this episode. We got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about, so let's just jump right in.
So let's start with the very first topic, which is all the Xbox news. There's a variety of news to talk about with Xbox. Sharma, she's on her crusade to save Xbox. People are praising her as the savior of the brand, and she's saying all the right things. Is it PR talk or is it real? We'll see, right? They did do one good thing, which was decrease the prices of Game Pass.
Yep.
So, Game Pass Ultimate service, it was $30, and now it's $23. It's $22.99. And PC Game Pass was $16.49, and now it's $14. Obviously, the PC one was not as affected by the price increases. In fact, the PC one was was actually a really great deal. Why the Xbox one with the Ultimate one really was like a big ripoff, and people really started hating it. And $30 was too much for a lot of people. It wasn't the best deal. It wasn't the best deal in gaming anymore. So
Yep.
what was your first reaction to the price decrease?
I had to double check that I was living in this time in reality because I was like, wait a second, a major corporation is decreasing the price of something instead of increasing the price. And like you said, it wasn't a huge cut or jump originally for PC Game Pass, but it was still enough that some people, especially yours truly, was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. Recently, I have been making more use of Game Pass, but it's not, it's not as much as it used to be for sure. I mean, I can literally count. I've got 10 games left on my play later list, and about like half of them I'm not even sure I'd play. Maybe a little under half. So it's not been the best deal in gaming anymore for sure. I'm not sure what that is anymore. I guess for me, I guess it's Steam. But yeah, it's undeniably a great move. I mean, I can't argue against decreasing the price and making it more affordable. Now, I wish PC would go back to I think the lowest it's ever been was 13.99, right? Has it ever been lower than that? I can't remember.
I think it might have been $10 or $12 or something in the
Yeah,
earlier
I'd love
days.
10. I'd
But
love. I think it's pie in the sky. I'd love $10, but I think this is a good price point for it. I don't think it's bad by any means. It is more limited than Xbox Game Pass, but I've always felt like, generally that I get my money's worth. I mean, lately I haven't, but that's just because I don't use it as much.
mm,
Which I mean, it's just because Steam is such a fantastic like storefront that even storefronts like Xbox Game Pass, which I think are still good. They used to be great, but now I think they're just good.
yeah,
You've got the new Kiln and Vampire Crawlers. You've got Hades 2 replaced and the Thaumaturge all on recently added.
yeah.
And a lot of those are great games. Not you, Call of Duty. But a lot of those are great games. And so I still think Game Pass has a lot to offer a lot of people. I'm not sure, maybe not me, but there's still games here and there that I can't get elsewhere, right? Like Ubisoft and EA don't allow sharing of games, and I often don't want to buy those games because those corporations are terrible. Although we'll talk about an exception I'm making later on. But yeah, overall, pretty happy. I don't really see how I could, I could complain. 16.49 was a little iffy. 13.99. I know it's only a couple dollars, but I mean, over a year that adds up. That's like what $24. So not bad. I could buy a whole a whole
Yeah,
bagel with that.
I think $20 something is a fair deal if you use it a lot. Like I would be the target audience for Game Pass because I play a lot of games and I jump around. But like Game Pass doesn't appeal to the majority of gamers, like the strong majority. Like obviously you and I are like 1% of the
Right.
population where we play a lot of indie games, a lot of AAA games. We have a podcast, we follow the news. Very few amount of people do that, right?
Right.
And the majority of gamers play the same like 5 games all year. They might buy a new one, like a new Batman game or a new, you know, Spider-Man game or something like that. But for the most part, they'll play NBA 2K, Madden, Fortnite, so on and so forth, right? So
Right.
is Game Pass appealing to them? Because what all the new games they're getting every month, they're just indie games for the most part, right? Is the casual gamer interested in Hades 2 on Game Pass? Is that going to move the needle for them? I don't think so. So Game Pass is still in a tricky spot because where do you grow from here? Like I assume the only way to grow Game Pass is to make it more affordable, which they did to a little bit, right? Could be better, but more affordable, and grow the Xbox brand, the hardware, because I don't see PC Game Pass getting any bigger than it is now because PC gamers, including me, are very loyal to Steam, right? They're very loyal to Steam, and they're not gonna just give up Steam for Game Pass, and
Right.
it's not gonna happen. So I don't know where they go from here. They can only just grow on Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that they can really do at this point is just offer bigger games for the same price, and I'm just not sure that we're going to see that. I mean, they're already
Yeah,
removing. We're going to talk about this. They're already removing Call of Duty benefits, which I added a very sarcastic note about, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, they'd have to release a lot more first party games or big third party games day one on Game Pass. That would obviously, I think that would move the needle. I mean, I love Hades too, and a lot of people I'm sure played it, but they probably played it on Steam a lot more than they played it on
yeah,
Game Pass, right? Like I don't
exactly.
think about Hades 2 on Game Pass. I think about it on Steam.
Exactly, and that's the problem they're having. And even they've had plenty of big games. I mean, last year, how many big games there were on Game Pass, right? Like they had
Yeah.
Doom and South of Midnight. Well, like South of Midnight's not a huge game, but they had like Diablo and so on and so forth. So like it's they have a lot of games on there. It's just I don't even think that's gonna move the needle really because people are not. It's a small audience that plays a lot of games like that. So from our standpoint, Game Pass is amazing, and the people that listen to this podcast, Game Pass is a great deal. But for the majority of people, I just don't think they see the appeal in that, right? Because they want to play the same 5 games. So it's a the streaming idea for games is I don't know if it's ever going to get as big as they were hoping. I mean,
Yeah.
Xbox was hoping to have 100 million subs by now, and they're at 30 something, I believe. So I don't think it's ever going to grow 70 more million.
No.
It would have to
They
require
they'd have to do something absolutely insane, like
put it on
release all
PlayStation
of their
or
yeah,
Switch.
they'd have to slash the prices to an unreasonable degree, even by my standards. And I mean, I
Yeah,
wouldn't complain, but they'd have to do it, and then they'd have to like release all of their games day one, and it just wouldn't make any financial sense. It already doesn't, as we've been hearing time and time again, does not make financial sense to do Xbox Game Pass. So the fact that they're still doing this
yeah,
and decreasing the price is good. It's finally good PR for Xbox.
yeah. And plus,
Finally.
I mean, as much money they have, they're not going to just throw money into the fire and keep burning it forever to
Yeah.
to pay the devs put their games on Game Pass like they do. So let's get into like the specifics. Sharma, who's like in charge of the Xbox now, that she's the CEO. She said Game Pass Ultimate has become too expensive for too many players. She said that before they decreased the price. She said this publicly on Twitter, and she said this disclosed to the workers. And Microsoft promises to recommit to our core Xbox fans and players. We already talked about the prices. Forthcoming, the popular title Call of Duty franchise will no longer be part of the subscription service, and this didn't surprise me because Call of Duty is a huge moneymaker, leaving it on PlayStation and leaving it on Steam, and it would be a huge mistake. I thought it was a mistake to put it on Xbox Day One. I know you own it technically, but
Yeah,
your money's going to come from people buying it and supporting it. And if people can just play it day one on Game Pass, they'll subscribe to Game Pass for 1 month and then cancel it when they're done Call of Duty.
yeah,
Unless they really want to keep playing Call of Duty, but the Call of Duty that came out last year was a disaster and didn't help Microsoft's case. So what
yeah,
happened was gaming contributed to 7% of Microsoft's total revenue in the fourth quarter, and the unit's revenue was down around 10% year over year. And while their cloud system, LinkedIn, Microsoft 365, productivity, and all that stuff was up at least 10%, their hardware sales declined 32% after Microsoft canceled the development of Everwild and Perfect Dark. So Xbox had a really hard year. I'm talking about the console
yeah,
brand, had a really tough year last year. And this says revenue from Xbox content and services, a metric that excludes hardware sales, came in below internal projections. Microsoft's finance chief said, Amy Hood said this in a conference call. So it's been rough for them. So they had to adjust, right?
yeah.
Now, there's a big commitment to the gaming division, which we'll talk about. But what they have to do is go back to making Xbox as appealing as possible, right? Like the console itself, because they just gave up on their console base and they were making everything's an Xbox. Your toaster is an Xbox. Your fridge is an Xbox. Like everything's an Xbox, and they
This
completely
microphone is an Xbox.
exactly, and they completely got rid of that marketing now, and they're getting
Yes,
away
which is good.
from Xbox. They're getting away from Microsoft gaming and going back to Xbox because
Right.
Xbox is iconic, and you need that in the industry. As much as we objectively rag on Xbox, it's important for the industry because you need PlayStation and Nintendo need competition, so it's good for
Right.
PlayStation. All right, you added a link to the notes as well, Dory, from Tech Radar.
Yeah, I
What you want
mean,
to talk
and
about?
also I want to say about the Call of Duty, like for me, that's the personally that's not a huge deal. I would love it. For example, I did this whole fucking coy thing about how it's so sad because we already talked about it. Call of Duty hasn't been very good lately. And I think that's also part of the reason too, is like Black Ops last year was just terrible. The single player was, at least the multiplayer was supposed to be decent. But I would love if I could pick more things that are attached to my plan that I have no interest in, and I could get rid of them, right? Like if there are certain features that I don't care about, like if I'm never going to play a Blizzard game in my life, or I'm never going to play Riot games, like could I get rid of those and take a few dollars off here and a few dollars off there, or
It's a good idea.
even like a dollar here, a dollar there?
Yeah.
Allegedly, from Tech Radar, that's what's in the works. So Demi Williams published 2 days ago on Tech Radar that a report came out from Jez Corden, who has been pretty reliable, from Windows Central, that
Mm,
sources told him that the long-term goal for the company is to make the subscription service, quote, more flexible, which, as we've already said, would align with what Sharma said about the service being too expensive and they want to bring in more players. And so they, need a better value
yeah.
equation.
Yeah.
Corden claims that a pick your own plan formula for Game Pass is in the cards, which users would be able to decide what package of contents they want in their plan. So that would essentially mean, for example, you could remove cloud gaming or content like Fortnite through subscription service and add day one Xbox games instead. This seems really cool. Windows Central also pointed out that Microsoft's leaks Do It and Trident code names for Xbox Game Pass, so that suggests new packages are in the works.
Mm,
Uh, Last thing I'll say is Tech Radar notes that people are kind of split on this because some people are like, I don't need, some people are like, I don't want half of these things, so that's great. It'll get rid of it, and I'll pay less. But some people suspect that Microsoft is, quote, probably just figuring out a way to charge you slightly less money for significantly less content. Um, But other people are more optimistic about it. So I don't know what you think about that, Seb. But as soon as we were talking about Game Pass, I was like, wait, didn't Corden come out with something else about that? So I think it sounds promising, but they could definitely rip us off.
Yeah, Jez Corden is a notorious fanboy, and he's been wrong just as much as he's been right. So I'm very iffy with going by him. But that sounds plausible. He's also the same person that said Xbox games are never coming to PlayStation, and guess what happened? But
Yeah,
my question would be how much can it possibly go down? And but the concept of it sounds good to me.
yeah.
But like it's gonna be like $20 at most. I just don't see how you could sustain Game Pass being like $15 for Ultimate. Like that just seems too low for what it's offering you.
Yeah.
And so I don't see Microsoft going that far. But the question is the price, right? It, what if they take out features to lower the price? How much possibly can they go? What do you think?
I mean, if they took out, personally speaking, as somebody who uses PC Game Pass and it's like 13.99, if I could take out certain things, I could see them drop it as low as 9.99. I don't think they'd go any lower than that. But
I don't think it's ever been lower than that. I think ten
and I think
dollars.
even 9.99 is a big drop.
Yeah, I think
What's
ten
that?
dollars. $10 I think was the original price. So I don't think it was ever below 10. Now that would be way too
Yeah.
low for what it's offering.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's the lowest you could go, and I mean, PC doesn't have as much attached to it anyway as Ultimate game as Ultimate does. I point that there was some extra perks like Fortnite stuff, but that might have been when I had Ultimate for like a month or two. Um, yeah, I mean, there's still stuff here that I don't want. Like, there's some publishers I don't care about. Like I said, Blizzard, Riot, even EA, and Activision to an extent. Um, and then there's some games here that I don't care about. But yeah, I mean, it would be hard to make it go much further down than 13.99, which I think is a decent price. I think 9.99 is excellent.
Yeah,
But it's kind of pie in the sky, right? I am with you that I'm not sure how far low they would go. And
yeah,
again, it can only do so much. It can only do so much
yeah.
to bring in new people.
And even then, it would bring in a small amount. It would bring in a hardcore fan base that would be really happy that it's that cheap and everything like that. But for the most part, I don't think it's gonna move people from Steam. And
Yeah.
that's the problem ultimately with Game Pass is just I don't know where you grow from here, and that's the question they have to figure out, right? All right, let's get into the gaming division part. So Matt Booty and Sharma had basically a conference, and they talked to the fans, and they had a big event, and people were very happy on Twitter and other social media. So let me get into it. Xbox new leadership is rapidly making changes to Microsoft's gaming division. To start with the end of Microsoft Gaming, and it says reevaluation of the Xbox's team approach to exclusivity, and I guess and they're focusing on AI as well, which is a concern for some people. It says it says the letter to employees was later published publicly on Xbox Wire, and it offers some insight into the new way of thinking at Xbox following the departure of former leaders Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. Microsoft Gaming describes our structure, but it does not describe our ambition. So we are going back to where we started and changing our team's name. And both of them said that in the memo. We are Xbox. So that was the big slogan. We are Xbox. And the Xbox executive's message to employees starts by addressing the challenges that the third place console maker faces, leading with players are frustrated. I'm with them on this part. I think Xbox players are upset, and it makes sense. We've criticized them for what they've done. I think putting their games on PlayStation is good for the gamers in general, but it's horrible for the brand. It's horrible for the marketing and things like that. And the sad part and the hard part for them is that their games that were put on PlayStation were huge hits on PlayStation, and now they have to take away that revenue because they have to make the games exclusive again. If I'm understanding this correctly, nothing's been done yet, so this is all just PR talk. So we don't know what the plan is, and I don't imagine they're going to take them off PC, but that's more my concern. But they said New features drops on console have been less frequent. Our presence on PC isn't strong enough. Pricing is getting harder for people to keep up with, which is true. And core experiences like search, discovery, social, and personalization still feel too fragmented. Developers and publishers are asking for more too. Better tools, better insights, and a platform that helps them grow faster. And this is really good PR. But again, I need to see some action before I get excited. And even then, I'm not excited. I'm a Steam user. I'm not an Xbox
Right.
gamer, so this probably doesn't even do anything for me. The big thing is I just want to keep the games on Steam. If you keep the games on Steam, I'll keep buying your games. But if you take them off Steam and force me to get Game Pass, I might be more willing to just ignore your game completely. And that would suck because I really like Bethesda and I really like a lot of Xbox's games. And I'm excited for Fable and things like that. But that would just be a huge mistake. Pissing off Steam users is the worst thing to do for growing on PC because people are going to abandon you. They'll criticize you. There'll be thousands and thousands of people just coming after you and complaining, and it'd be bad PR, like massively bad PR.
Right.
We've seen them reverse their decision for less backlash than if they took their games off Steam. So I think that's
Yeah.
safe. Personally, what do you think for PC? Do you think that's safe?
Yeah, I don't see them doing that. I think you're absolutely right that they would feel like that is the kind of wrath you would never want to instill. It would be unmitigated and just
Yeah,
wholly justified. I,
yeah,
I don't see them ever doing that. Now maybe they would do like timed exclusives with Game Pass and then eventually bring them on
yeah.
bring them on Steam, but like Sony does or did. But I don't even that I'm not sure that they would do that.
Yeah, even then, I think Steam users would just wait because PC gamers
Yeah.
are very patient people,
Yep.
including me. And I still haven't played Ghost of the Yotai. I will eventually,
Shame.
but I will eventually
Shame.
because I have no choice to play it on PlayStation if I really want to play it. Um, but yeah, I think this more means like they're gonna stop putting games on PlayStation. I think they feel like PlayStation's competition, and they're giving up on everything's an Xbox and play games everywhere. I think they're getting away from that. I think they're getting back to focusing on the box and getting gamers like giving people reason to play your games. Because when they bought Activision and Bethesda, everybody assumed all their games were going to be exclusive to them only, and that's why everybody was like freaking out because it was like, oh my god, Starfield's going to be exclusive to Xbox. Elder Scrolls is going to be exclusive. Fallout, Doom, Wolfenstein, Diablo, Warcraft, like everything's gonna be exclusive to Xbox, and it's not gonna be fair. Like PlayStation fans are getting screwed. Like that was why a lot of people were like freaking out about the deal. And then they did the
Yeah.
opposite, right? They said we're gonna put everything on everything. They kept a lot of the games on platforms. Doom, for example, was put on PlayStation day one,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And Starfield
It's
is on
I mean it's
PlayStation
it's
now.
weird because I prefer the Xbox approach in theory, but
Yeah,
financially it just doesn't make any sense for them to do that. It
exactly.
makes people not want to buy their Xbox. It makes it less valuable to own. It doesn't make any sense. Like you might as well just have a PC at that point.
Hmm.
The problem. It's weird because I agree with Xbox, and I'm glad that they did what they did. But financially, it's been a disaster for them, which is unfortunate because I think that ethically, if there can be ethics in this situation, they did the better choice, giving more gamers access to their games that to the IPs that they own because they didn't have to do that. They could have just said, "Yep, this is on Xbox only, and maybe PC Game Pass if we're feeling nice on a Tuesday," and that's it. And they didn't do that, and I thought that was awesome when they didn't do that, but it really hasn't worked out for them. It's made people not want to buy into their ecosystem, and it's made them look kind of ridiculous because like well, what's the point? Like you're not even competing with anybody at that point. Like I feel like there has to be a good middle ground where it's like, okay, you can still play this on PlayStation and PC, but Xbox is the place where you're going to get the most benefit for playing it. Like there's got to be a reason for me to want an Xbox, which is never going to happen. By the way, that ship has sailed. I'm on the PC,
Yeah,
and maybe I'm on
I agree.
PlayStation. And
Yeah,
maybe I'm on Steam Deck if that, or Steam Deck, well, Steam Deck, but also Steam Machine if that price ever, in a year's time, that price ever comes down. But yeah, it's right now I'm very happy with what I have. So yeah, it's just
Okay,
it's a frustrating thing.
let me add to that. Like, let me give you a question. Now, Project Helix is a PC Xbox hybrid. If it's a reasonable price and you can play Steam games on this console, which you will be able to do that, would you support it? If it's like, let's say it's a $500 machine, it's probably gonna be more money than that. But let's say it's like $500 and it plays Steam games. Would you buy a Project Helix?
I don't think I would because I don't even use my Steam Deck, which is frustrating to me because I love my Steam. I've actually literally pretty much paid it off today,
Yeah.
and which is great. And I love my Steam Deck. It's great. And the first few months I used it, I really loved it. But I just haven't been using it lately. But yeah, so I don't think I would, even if it was a reasonable thing.
Is it?
I think I'd
Yeah.
be more likely to use the Steam machine than I would be to use the Steam Deck, the Helix at this point. Also, we both know that's not going to be a reasonable price, although that is a lovely hypothetical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what makes the Steam machine more appealing to you than the Project Helix? Because they said the Helix is supposed to be like super strong, the strongest.
I honestly, part of it is the branding. Like, I just trust Valve to do the mission, follow through with it, and stay consistent. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't trust them if they, are going to make the Steam Machine 3. But other than that, I trust them more or less. Their brand is very tight on generally speaking, giving good value for what they're doing. I mean, we've heard this isn't the topic, and I'm going to very briefly talk about it because it just came out today, but we've heard rumors that the Steam controller is coming out very soon. It's going to be $100. That's too much
Or
rich for my blood.
or it was straight up leaked. Like this is meant to like this is like a leak, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty much a leak. Yeah, I misspoke.
No, you're good.
But yeah, it's pretty much been leaked that it's going to be $100. That's too rich for my blood personally. But a lot of people have said a lot of controllers with those features would be a lot more, which is nuts to me. Like, I have a 8-bit do and I love it, and it was like 50, $60, which I
Yeah.
think is a perfect price point for a controller for me. But I mean, I
Mm.
would still. I would rather give my $100 to Steam
Yeah.
than $60 to Xbox or $75 to PlayStation. Like, that's where I'm at with
Yeah.
how much I trust Valve as opposed to how much I trust Sony.
Yeah.
Because while Sony is floundering with all their live service and Xbox is like stepping on rakes in a giant circle like Sideshow Bob, like, Valve is still kind of kicking ass. Like, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying they always do things right.
Yeah.
But and I'm in love with the $100 price tag. But like, I feel like they do more good than bad, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's why I think that's a big part of it too. I also just feel like I'm just not a portable person in terms of playing my games on the go. Like, I will if I'm in the car on a big trip, or if I'm in a hotel, or if it's nighttime and I want to spend time with Kim. And I got my earbuds and I could just plug in while she's sleeping or watching TikTok. But the problem is that I don't need to take it to work. I don't have a long commute or anything like that. If I'm gonna play at home, I'd rather play on my PC or on my TV through the PS5. 9 times out of 10, it's the PC. So that means, like, I don't know. The Steam machine would still be my preference over the Helix.
Would you use your Steam machine more over your laptop? Like you would use your Steam machine mainly?
I do kind of miss having a console type situation with my TV. If it was a reasonable price, I might use it over my PC.
Yeah.
Just because I do miss that built-in setup, and I don't have to finagle with settings, and I don't have to mess with things, and it should just work out of the box. And if it doesn't, I think Steam will have a system to let you know that it's not,
Yeah.
exactly like they do with the Steam Deck, that it's
Yeah.
not optimum for the Steam Deck. In which case, I'll just play it on my PC. So I don't know. But I'm not going to buy the Steam machine because it's going to be like $700, $800, and that's just too
Maybe
much for
more.
me.
Maybe more than
Maybe
that.
more. God, I hope not. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be a lot. We were really optimistic at first that the Steam machine wasn't going to be, huge, but and even Valve themselves made it sound like that.
Yeah.
But they've kind of walked it back, and all the AI bullshit, and
That
yeah.
was.
Anyway, that's
I feel like
that's
that.
all another thing.
I feel like that was before the RAM prices went crazy, right? Like
Yes, it was. It
when
certainly
it first
was.
got revealed, we thought it was gonna be like a $400, $500 machine. Like, oh, this is
Yes. Yeah.
awesome. And then the RAM prices went crazy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think they're going to treat this Steam machine you're gonna treat it as like a gaming enthusiast machine and not subsidize it or anything like that. So it's gonna be expensive. But
Yeah.
the appeal for me for over a Steam machine over Project Helix is that they use a Steam OS, and Steam OS is cleaner, more efficient,
Right.
faster, just works like right out the box. And and the thing is, like, if Project Helix uses Windows, which it will, right, because it's Microsoft, how is it going to run on the console? Is it going to be about buggy, and is there going to be issues? Because Windows is a pain in the ass to use. In comparison to OS, like Steam OS, like when you use a Steam Deck, you turn it on, it just works. You go to big picture mode on Steam, it just works, right? Xbox, you got to do the Microsoft. You have to do a bunch of steps, and you got to close some programs in the background so it doesn't hurt the performance of the game. And so that would be my main argument against Helix and picking the Steam machine. But at the same time, I could also argue that Project Helix, if it's a similar price to Steam Machine and it's way stronger than the Steam Machine, then I might consider the Project Helix over it, right? Like I can deal with all the Windows BS if that means it's much stronger, right? So it just comes down to the price, and it comes down to preference. Like, there's so much uncertainty because we just don't know. Um,
Yeah.
the Steam Machine's price is the big question for Xbox. Because Steam Machine is because the reason why we're mentioning this, I know this is Xbox topic, but the reason why we're mentioning this is because Sony and Microsoft are concerned about Valve getting into this market, right? Like I'm
Right.
sure I'm not sure I'm not saying they're scared shitless and they're panicking or anything like that, but it's a new competitor in the market. If Steam or Valve could release this at a fair price and the RAM prices were not ridiculous, and it was, let's say this was like $400. PlayStation and Xbox would have some issues. They'd have to start looking at Valve as a major competitor. What's saving them is that they're big brands themselves, but it's
Right.
saving them is the RAM prices, and the Steam machine's probably going to be a ridiculous amount of money. So people are not going to buy it in droves. You're not going to walk into your local GameStop or your local Walmart and walk in and buy a Steam machine like you can do a PlayStation 5. So I think that's what saves Sony from being really sweating. But maybe in the future, these RAM prices and these tariffs have been devastating for the industry and bad for us, making things
Right.
so much more expensive. Anyway,
Yep.
last part of this topic is the logo. So they changed the logo. It says Microsoft has scrapped Microsoft Gaming in favor of Xbox today, and it's also starting to roll out a new Xbox logo. The new logos start appearing on Microsoft's campus this week, just in time for Xbox CEO Sharma all hands meeting earlier today. The new Xbox logo has a more glassy look, and I understand Microsoft has also been using this new design for some of its internal Project Helix materials. I think it's a really cool logo. I like the glassy look. I think it's clean. I think it looks modern. The call back to the OG Xbox, back to the green, the strong green.
Yep.
I like it. So I think it's a cool logo. It doesn't do anything for me, but it's still cool. So that's basically it. So in total, Game Pass. To sum it up, Game Pass went down in price. They're committing to possibly more exclusivity. They're committing back to the console more, and they changed the logo. So that's sum up our 30-minute conversation. All right. Any last thoughts, or are you ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on. I think we've very much covered this.
Yes. All right. So the next topic is Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. It got revealed. It got shown. We got a whole showcase, and it was like what 20? It was like 30 minutes. I want to say, and a lot of interviews, a lot of gameplay shown, a lot of story element. Like, it was the full package. We got to see the game in total. It's coming out on July 9th, so it's pretty close actually, a couple months, and it looked done. It looked polished, looked ready to go. All right, so if you don't know, this is a remake of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which came out as a launch game on PS4. That was one of my first PS4 games. I remember getting that the night of the release. I waited in the line at Blockbuster, and that was the very first console I ever bought with my own money from my own job. So that was historical for me. And I bought the first game I played was Resogun, and then the second game I played was Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So I think this is my top three favorite Assassin's Creed game. I like Assassin's Creed 2 a little more, probably because the Italian part of it and stuff like that, and I like Enzo and all that. But I also there is some things about this game where like this is when the Assassin's Creed started getting into the big open world RPG focus and in the wrong direction for me at some points. But this game is still not as big as those games, but it was in that direction. You can tell like the success of this game is what inspired them to do what they do today. These giant worlds, which I think are bloated. But that aside, this is a remake. It's built from the ground up. That's the big thing. It's built from the ground up using their engine, same engine, but like a more evolved engine. And this is basically Shadows, Assassin's Creed Shadows graphics, and it looks like that to me. And so this is a detail. So I'm getting this from IGN. In a detailed presentation on the game attended by IGN, Ubisoft explained that it had decided to focus solely on the single-player story of Black Flag's pirate-turned-assassin, Edward Kenway, meaning that the game's Freedom Cry DLC has not been integrated, its original multiplayer mode has been ditched, and its previous playable modern-day sections have been excised. While some content has been removed, Ubisoft is keen to emphasize the new additions it has been working on, including 3 new crewmates for Edward to befriend and install on his beloved Jackdaw. These fresh additions are original characters, introduced as Lucy Baldwin, the Padre, and Dead Man Smith, and each come with their own individual story quest to follow. Additional scenes have been recorded with Edward himself, once again played by returning actor Matt Ryan, with other new story elements for 2 of the original game's best characters, Blackbeard and Steed Bonnet. Alongside additions to the game's story, Ubisoft has, of course, been tinkering with its gameplay mechanics. Combat has been rebuilt to resemble the parry-focused system seen in more recent entries, though with the addition of fancy special attacks that would have seemed out of place. Rather than a desire to make the game systems play exactly like the series' recent RPGs, the developer is keen to impress that the original Black Flag still lies underneath. Alright, so I know I read a lot, so let's discuss this section, then we'll talk about the
Sure.
other section.
Well, first off, it's Steve Bonnet. I'm just pointing that out.
Is it Bonnet? Okay,
Or
my bad.
Steed Bonnet.
I
Yeah.
don't
No,
remember
it's
any of the
okay.
names. Alright, so big thing was the graphics. So the graphics looked a lot better from the original game. You can tell
Yeah.
it's the better engine, more modern game, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think of the graphics, first of all?
It looks beautiful. It looks. A lot of people said this in the comments, so I'm not saying anything new here, but it looks like the game I remember, which is nuts because it was 2013. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I never remember Black Flag looking like a particularly bad game. It's always looked impressive. And so this just kind of looks like exactly the game I remember, even though I know that's not true. Like if I went back and side by side them, obviously this game would look a lot better. But yeah, it still feels like the graphics still feel like they're capturing the spirit of everything. You know, obviously you've got that the Caribbean kind of destination going on here, the kind of scenic touristy look, but you've got, of course, these furious battles upon pirate ships, and you've got the piratopias and the big historical figures. I mean, it feels it feels great. It looks great.
Yeah, plus the gameplay looked a lot better because
Yeah.
it was like a lot more, as I said, parry focused, and it seemed more like a modern Assassin's Creed game. Um, I don't remember the gameplay being bad in the original game, but it's been so
No.
long.
I it has been a long time for me. I think I played it back in 2017, and I haven't played it since. So that's almost 10 years ago, actually, which is nuts. But yeah, I haven't played it since, but I remember it being good. I mean, if you look at Steam reviews of the original one, it's still very positive. Most reviews are still very positive about this game. It is legitimately a great game. Holds up really well too to the test of time. So this is one of those games, honestly, that you don't need to remake, but I'm glad they are because I would love an excuse to go back to this world. I love these characters. I'm a huge pirate fan. I've always loved pirates ever since I was a kid. I used to draw treasure maps that went to absolutely nowhere. Like I love pirates as a kid. Muppet Treasure Island, one of my favorite Muppet movies. Just I've always loved pirates. I've always loved the kind of fantasy involved in them, the swashbuckling, the looking for treasure, as I got older, to the resisting authority and creating their own democratic areas and stuff like that, and democracy on the high seas. Obviously, they weren't necessarily good people, but there's a real love of pirates. I think that has really withheld the test of time, and all people want is a damn good pirate game, and it took a long time for us to get there. And Black Flag really was the height of that, and I feel like nothing's ever really met it since. Obviously, Skull and Bones didn't. You could say that new game, what is it called, Windrose or something, um, is trying to do it. Yeah, Windrose, but it's a little different because it's like PVE survival or whatever. Sea Pirates obviously was super successful for Xbox, but it's also doing something a little different than it's very co-op based and very kind of party based, and so there's just been nothing like Black Flag. Um, I am curious how people respond to them cutting the modern stuff. I don't personally care. I've never really cared about the modern stuff. I know that's kind of a controversial take. Some of the people in the Assassin's Creed community love that stuff and think it's really cool. And obviously, that's what sets it apart from like any other pirate tale. But I'm not personally going to mourn the loss of those sections. And if they are giving me new content to make up for it, I don't know. It feels like an easy win to me, but I know some people really love those modern sections and love how it ties into like corporate conspiracies and Abstergo and all that stuff. And that's cool. I get that. But to me, that was always the part of Black Flag I never really liked. Like, I want to go back to being Kenway. I don't want to be in this boring corporation that I don't care about,
Yeah.
right? So that's how I felt.
Yeah, that's been the biggest criticism of the original games. Is people always say that those sections are the worst parts of those games.
Yeah. Well, because they're always just walking simulators. You're never actually, except maybe towards the end of the game when you suddenly get assassin powers in real
Yeah,
life or whatever. Like you're
yeah.
never doing
It's
anything more than just
yeah,
walking around.
which is the product of its time. In that era, in that PS3, Xbox 360 era, a lot of the walk and talk sections were in a lot of games. Right, there was a lot of
Yeah.
sections where you would just follow a character and they would give you exposition. That's just the era it's in.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have less patience nowadays, and also um, it's just dated for us, right? We just want to be in the world.
Right.
People want to be absorbed into the world and just enjoy being a pirate. All right, they changed. They kept their familiar parkour stuff, the free jumps, the side ejects, back ejects. You can toggle crouch too, all of which seem familiar to Shadow players. You can in the eavesdrop missions, you don't actually autofill anymore, which is great because that was annoying.
Yeah. That
And
was
there,
very annoying.
and then there's fresh alternate fire upgrades for your cannons. And speaking of Jackdaw, which is the ship, Resync's 3 additional crew members will add to their own all new upgrades. You can also add a pet, either a cat or a monkey, who will hang out with you next to the ship's wheel. And perhaps most importantly, she shanties or is it shanties?
Sea
Shanties
shanties.
are also back with more added. Obviously, I'm excited for having a monkey. I love cats, but give me the monkey. I love the monkey in Pirates of the Caribbean. That's like it's probably my favorite character in that movie besides Jack Sparrow.
Good
Um,
stuff.
and then it says while the game doesn't look as detailed as current gen console entry Shadows, it's not far off. Yeah, it didn't look as good as Shadows, but it looked really good. Particularly impressive are the towering waves seen while at sea and the addition of the franchise's recent dynamic weather system, allowing for clear blue skies to suddenly turn into stormy waters. So, this is what Skull and Bones should have been, and ironically, Ubisoft made that game too. And
Yep.
it's just really funny that they're making a better pirate game. It's the same company making a better pirate game than their game that was worked on for a decade. That game was just kind of like done because they had a contract with Singapore and they had to do it no matter what. But yeah, this game looks great and I'm excited for it. July 9th is a perfect date for it. Perfect summer game. I live in Florida, live in South Florida. Like, go to the beach, go to the pool, play this on my handheld, which is the appeal for playing on a handheld, right? And just enjoying it. It'd be really fun to play on the beach, actually.
Yes.
So
Assassin's Creed Black Flag on the beach.
yeah, exactly. I forget where this takes place.
I believe it's the Caribbeans.
Yeah, so not yeah,
As somebody who's done like some reading on actual historical pirates, they're using real world locations that they actually obviously it's it's Assassin's Creed. It's not one
yeah,
to one by any means,
yeah,
but it is a foundation that they are using. That
yeah,
these are real places that pirates did have set up for a certain amount of
right,
time, but until governors got involved.
yeah,
A lot of the reason why these pirate republics were able to, getting on my historian high chair here, but high horse, but a lot of the reasons why these pirate republics were able to take place, like Libertalia and the couple of places that are highlighted in this game, are just because the governors were so fucking corrupt and were easily
yeah,
bribable, and it's like where they were getting a lot of money, and also the pirates were kind of seen as folk heroes. So a lot of the people
yeah,
really liked them, but eventually the propaganda turned against them, and they all
yeah,
started getting hanged and yada yada. Anyway, there's some really cool historical stuff
right,
I find very fascinating. But anyway,
yeah,
about the game, I'm very excited. I'm very very excited. That I have not bought a Ubisoft game probably since the original Black Flag, and I'm not counting like indies or whatever, like
yeah,
mainline Ubisoft titles. I have not bought anything. I think. Don't quote me on this. I think since Black Flag in 2017, so not even when it came out.
yeah,
But I don't. I wasn't playing games then. I love Black Flag, the original. The combat. I love the pirate centered storytelling, the historical characters that they have there. Blackbeard really did do that with his beard, which was pretty cool, and with his hat,
yeah,
to intimidate other people. So it was pretty cool. Which stopped him from actually killing a lot of people. So that's kind of cool too. But yeah, because they just surrendered out of fear.
yeah,
But yeah, this looks super cool. I'm very excited. Black Flag has a big place in my heart.
yeah,
It's probably day one for me, unless this game absolutely bombs or
yeah,
it's got a lot of bugs or something, or it's just not ready. But like Seb said, it looks like it's done. It
yeah.
looks
It looks
beautiful.
pretty.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this game. Day one for me. It's a perfect summer game. I'm not too far from the Caribbean myself. Like, it's right there. Um, this is a perfect game for me. I love pirates. I'm always looking for a good pirate game. We don't get that many.
No,
The really good one, Sea of Thieves, doesn't appeal to me because I don't like those kind of games.
right.
But yeah, like it's been a good year for pirate games. The other one, the other game that came out, Windrose,
Yep.
is really popular and people really like it.
Yep.
Not for me, personally, for kind of like survival games, but
Right.
and I also don't play early access games as well generally.
Yeah.
But I love pirate games, so this is very exciting. This is like the most mainstream pirate game you can probably get, right? The most AAA version of a pirate game you're gonna
Yeah.
get. So
Yep.
very exciting. All right, let's get to our spotlights. So we're gonna spotlight Replaced, and we're gonna spotlight Pragmata. You beat both of them. I'm near the end of both of them. I think.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
on chapter 7 of Replaced, and there's only like 3 more chapters left. And then
Right.
Pragmata, I'm like literally at the end.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely have Pragmata beat tonight after the podcast, and then my goal is to get Replaced beat tomorrow. Because I don't think there's a lot of side quests left. I feel like side quests were a lot mainly in chapter 3, no
You
two
come
and
back to
4.
the hub, I want to say twice,
Yeah,
and that, or maybe three times. So if you've already done the third time, then there's no more side quests. But if you haven't, then there's a couple more to clean up,
yeah, okay.
or ignore if you want.
Yeah, I got all the achievements for those because I knew you get health upgrades and you need them. But we'll talk about
You
that.
really do need them, yeah. Well, it's which is a double-edged sword because it makes the side quest feel important, but at the same time,
Yeah,
it makes them feel like you can't skip them even if you don't like them.
yeah,
But yeah, we should talk about what Replaced is first.
yeah. So Replace is a 2.5D cyberpunk action platformer set in an alternate version of the 1980s, where technology and society have gone very wrong. You play as Reach, an artificial intelligence trapped inside a human body, trying to survive and understand the world around you. The game mixes cinematic platforming, exploration, and fast combat with a strong focus on storytelling and atmosphere. You move through a bleak, rain soaked city full of corruption, violence, and corporate control. So, Replaced was a game that both of us were looking forward to a lot, right? Like, this is both on, was like number one on our indie list of like most
Yeah.
anticipated indies. So, I was very excited for this game. And for everything I was seeing, it looked great because starting with the pros, the visuals of this game are incredible.
Stunning.
I think that's the best part of the game by far. Like,
This absolutely has to be nominated at the Goaties
yeah,
for at the Keeleys
yeah,
for art direction or whatever that one is,
yeah,
or whatever, whatever the award is called. This is just some incredible 2D animation. It's just incredible.
exactly. I have a lot of problems with this game, and I'll get into it. But
Me
if there's
too.
one thing but the one thing I would that sells this game is the visuals. Like, this game is worth the price just for the visuals alone.
Yeah.
It's not. It's reasonably priced. Maybe it could be a little cheaper, I guess. But like, for the visuals and the music and the presentation of this game is insanely good. Like, it builds a really fantastic world. It feels like a real breathing world, real cyberpunk dystopian world. It feels really cool. The atmosphere of this game is amazing. It's very dark and moody, and like it has a really nice sci-fi feel, like neon lights.
I'm
It feels like was it like that genre. It feels like cyberpunk, like perfectly.
yeah.
But what's the name of what's the movie with Harrison Ford? Uh,
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. That's what it feels like
Yeah.
to me. But like
Yeah.
a little
I
more
I must have
dark.
taken I did. I almost took 200 screenshots of this game. That has got to be a record, or
Yes,
at least close to a record for me. The game is just stunning. It just looks so good.
yes. That's like it's the best part of the game by far.
Yeah, by far.
And then it has a great soundtrack. And you mentioned it has like a really nice, like, claustrophobic sounding techno, and like it feels like it really captures the spirit of like dystopian world. Like,
Yes.
I bought brand new headphones. I spent a good amount of money on these headphones because like these are like game changing headphones for me, because I really needed a better pair of headphones like for gaming. And I played this is the first game I played with these headphones, and wow, could you hear the difference? But also you could hear like the water dripping, the sound of like the neon lights making like flickering, and the people people talking to each other and things like that. If the sound design of this game is fantastic and the music's fantastic. What do you think, Dory?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. The sound design is very impressive. Every punch feels, crispy and crisp and just full. It feels, really impactful. Just everything sounds really good for, especially for an indie studio that I presume, isn't working with what AAA companies are. It's working
Yeah,
with a lot more, I think, than a lot of indie studios are working with.
yeah,
But because the same people who funded this also funded the BioShock like that came out, Atomic Heart. So there's definitely some money and power behind this game, but at the same time, it looks really good, especially for an indie game, and it sounds really good too. The soundtrack is bumping. When you're in that combat, you're just kind of like zoned in because of the soundtrack. It just sounds really good, and when there are peaceful moments, that's emphasized really well too. Yeah, the soundtrack's excellent.
and the animation is incredible, like especially in the fights, right? Like
Yes.
we do the executions.
Executions. I
Yeah,
highlighted the executions in my pros. When you kill, I must have pressed. I switched my key to 9 to take screenshots because for some games when you press F12 or F11 or whatever it is, it minimizes the window or some bullshit.
sure.
Anyway, so I switched it to 9 because you almost never have to use the 9 button
Uh,
in weapon games.
Makes sense.
I was just
Yeah, go ahead.
pressing 9 a bunch. Go ahead.
Yeah, I personally use page down on my keyboard on the right, like the very right above the arrow keys, because nothing
Okay.
ever uses that. That's always been
Yeah.
my go-to. Because I never touch these keys on my keyboard. So although I have a different keyboard than like a laptop, like laptop keyboard's different. They usually don't have
Yeah,
those.
I'm looking for my page down, and it's nowhere near
I,
yours. Yeah,
yeah,
mine's like on the number board, way to the right.
yeah. Anyway, so the executions were awesome. Like,
Yes.
and there's all different ones, and it's really fun. And then the gameplay, I think the gameplay it can have some issues, but when it clicks, it's really fun. It feels like an
Yes.
Arkham game. Like, it has a red dodge, it has the yellow counter, and then it has like the armored people, and you have to break their shields or break their
Yep.
armor with a heavy attack, and you have to time it right. There's some issues with that, which we'll get into, but for
Yes.
the most part, the combat works for me. I really enjoyed the
Yep.
combat. and and we talked about the set pieces already being memorable. I think the story itself is good. It has to be. The story is everything in this game. If the story sucked, I think this game would have been a lot worse, honestly.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the characters are a lot of fun. I really like the main character. Though you notice the fish out of water story works, even though it's a bit tropey and everything, but it works.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think it's going to be similar case when we talk about Pragmata, but yeah, it's a well tested, mom tested, kid approved kind of strategy here, where you have a fish out of water AI who's very like not used to this world and has to learn how things work, and it just works. It just makes for a fun character to bounce off of, and I find the other characters who help him out throughout the story, Tempest and Veronica especially, but
yeah,
also the council members are given a lot of fun kind of dialogue to engage themselves in with Reach, because Reach just doesn't understand certain things, doesn't understand why certain things are, or has a very matter of fact way of speaking. Honestly, it felt kind of, and obviously there's stupid stereotypes about autistic people being robots, but as an autistic person, it did sometimes come off to me like Reach sounded somewhat autistic in the way that he could speak sometimes. Very
mm,
factual, very blunt, very to the point, very not necessarily concerned with people's feelings at times, right? Especially when feeling overwhelmed or sensory
mm,
issues.
yeah,
So
makes
there are
sense.
parallels that are there that I saw.
Yeah,
Not to necessarily perpetuate that bad stereotype, but yeah.
makes sense. All right,
But yeah,
we hit on most of it. The last two are more you. You said you like the
yeah.
side quest. I have issues with the
I
side quest myself.
I yes, I understand that there are pacing concerns, and I share those concerns, and we'll talk about that later. But I will say none of them. I wouldn't say any of them bored me. I would say that I liked them enough to do them. None of them like made me frustrated enough that I was like, oh, I wish I wasn't doing this, but the reward is so good, kind
Yeah,
of
the reward
situation.
is
I was
worth it.
always like,
Yeah,
yeah, I was always like, the side quest isn't amazing, but it's worth it for such and such reason, right?
yeah,
But I do agree with you that there are pacing issues there, and they're not, the side quests aren't that great. I think one of the reviewers out there, might have been even IGN, said that they should have just put a storefront for you to like just buy the upgrades and skip all these side quests. I think that would have been better.
yeah.
This game is too
That's a good
long.
idea.
It took me 12 hours, 13 hours question mark to beat this game, which is just too long. It should have been 10. Some of that's a skill issue on my part. I think I got stuck. We'll talk about this in a little bit, on the hacking mini game for 20 minutes the first time, because they don't explain it at all and they just expect you to understand how it works. And I found it, I almost quit. I literally almost, I was talking to you about it, I almost quit. But the other thing I want to talk about for the last pro is the audio logs, which aren't really audio logs. They're just read logs. But anyway, they're really good. All the writing is really good. It makes the world feel lived in. It gives everything a bit more texture and focus and color to it. So that's really cool. The audio logs
Yeah,
are really good. So that's my last pro. But
yeah,
we'll get into the cons. And boy, Seb and I both have some cons to give this game.
yeah. The audio logs are well written, and there's a lot of them, like a lot of them.
Yeah, a
And
lot of them. Yeah,
which is another con, unfortunately, which I'll get into. Um, well, the collecting things are anyway. So first of all, for me, for the con, this game needed voice acting really badly. This game has such an awesome like music and presentation and everything like that, and it would have been on another level if it had fantastic voice acting. Like I feel like Reach and all the characters would have worked even better with great voice acting. It felt like a really cool scene of Pokemon, and then the scene is doesn't have any voice acting, and it just takes me out of it. And
yeah.
I felt that way here, like especially in the beginning of the game, like right off the bat, there's a lot of dialogue, sets everything up, and I think it would have been more effective if he had like a Jarvis sounding voice or something like that, like something like I think that would have worked for me, and it was very distracting for me. I've seen some people say this as well in their reviews, and I agree with them. I think voice acting was a big need. Does it like it didn't ruin the game for me? It's not even it's probably my smallest con, my smallest nitpick of this game, but I think its game needed voice acting. I don't think you I think you don't care as much, right? That it didn't have voice acting.
No, it didn't bother me. I'm very used to text, and I know you are too, but for some reason that just never bothered me. I
Yeah,
do agree, of course, voice acting would have added something, but
yeah,
it never even registered to me as a complaint
sure.
personally.
Now, my biggest problem with this game is the jankiness and the bugs. Now, there were times where I'm supposed to grab this crate and I was supposed to drag it to the wall to jump on the crate and then jump into the hole. I'm hitting the Y button. He's not grabbing the crate. He's not grabbing the crate, and I have to
I had that
restart.
happen too.
I had to restart the checkpoint to do it to continue. I'm doing everything correctly. I'm following everything they want me to do. There's times where I'm jumping on the ledge and he's just not grabbing the ledge. I'm jumping on it. I'm jumping on it, and then there's times he's just not reaching for it for some reason, and then I had to restart the checkpoint, and it worked the second time. It was things like that. It was adding up. It was like one thing after
I
another.
There is a train chase. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about, where
Yeah.
you are running away from a helicopter, and if it catches you, auto instant death. That's another problem I'm going to talk about.
Yes.
I lost it at this point at this part of the game because you jump and he does not pull himself up, and if you are even off by a few seconds in this game, insta death.
Yep.
And it's just maddening because it starts you all the way back at the beginning, no matter how much you've done,
Yep.
and it just won't give you any checkpoints. And I lost it at this part. I got
Yes.
very angry and very upset because
Yeah.
it just felt like they were wasting my time. It felt like I was getting punked. I felt like I was with Ashton Kutcher. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, dude, pull yourself up faster or just land. Like, I'm
Sure.
waiting as long as I can to make the jump, and I'm still barely making it. It takes him forever to pull himself up over a ledge, even though he's like, I'm using 100% of your brain now, Warren, so now you can fucking pull, kick ass really well. And it's like he's so slow. And of course, the helicopter catches up, and then you're dead. And
Yeah.
it's like, that happened like 2 or 3 times, and I was losing my mind.
Yeah. Like a lot of our cons are very similar. It's just we just
Yes.
worded it differently. But like the platforming in this game is very inconsistent. Like
It's very
you will
consistent.
time your jump, and he won't land in the right spot anyway. Even though I did exactly what they wanted me to do, it's still not
Yep.
registering that I did it right, as you just said. Right? There is way too much platforming in this game. Like this game was not designed for platforming. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. Some elements here and there, like I can understand jumping off over one gap or two or whatever, but this game wants you to do like constant platforming, and it just doesn't work for me. It's slow, it's frustrating. There's way too many one-hit kills in this game, and
Yeah,
the
too
checkpoint
many.
system in this game is bad. I don't like the checkpoint system in this game. If like you're doing a puzzle, and like you're like 3 minutes into the puzzle, if you die even one time during the puzzle, you have to start over. You have to start the entire puzzle over again. So
It's maddening.
it's really frustrating.
So there's this one section where you're in the cult, right? Somewhat early in the game. I'm pretty sure you've already been here before.
Yeah.
And there are these jets of hot air
Chapter
that
3.
are coming out of
It's
the
chapter
sewers.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, chapter 3. And if those pixels fucking touch your pinky toe, you are dead. I had Warren down one level lower than he should have. And by one level, I mean like one row.
Yeah.
Lower than he should have. And it touched his leg. I swear, just his leg. Dead. Instant death.
Yes.
And I had to
yes.
start all the way back at the beginning.
Yes.
And I lost like 45 seconds to a minute every single time I died. That was
Stupid.
the first time I realized, oh, this platforming is not great
Yes.
in lengthy sequences. Like in short sequences, I think the platforming's fine.
Yes.
But when you get to those lengthy sequences with bad checkpoints, and the checkpoint system doesn't make any sense because you'll talk to some random NPC, checkpoint. You'll pick up an object, checkpoint. You do about 2 minutes of a lengthy, inconsistent, instant death riddled platforming section, no checkpoint. You have to go through another 30 seconds or whatever. And then if you die, you lose all that time. It's just, what are we doing? Oh, it's so frustrating.
It feels like it was not tested. I had this problem with the stealth sections too, because if it even sees an inch of your body, you get shot. I got shot through the wall multiple times. I got shot through the wall multiple times. I'm like, huh? Now the stealth sections are mostly easy. I haven't beat the game yet, but I haven't had that many problems with them.
No.
But sometimes I'm like, seriously, I've had more issues with the platforming than the stealth.
Yeah.
but still, it's the same problem. It's like it's just janky. It just doesn't work the way they intended. It didn't feel like it was tested. It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
they like did no one played this and but like it felt like wow, the checkpoint system sucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a game
It's just
designer,
bad.
but like I feel like somebody would have noticed that it's bad.
Yeah.
I also have pacing issues with this game, more than you probably. Um,
Yeah.
so I played chapter 1. Great start. I was really into it. Chapter 2, okay, it's slower, but it's introducing me to the world. I'm seeing all the characters, where people live, doing side quests. The
Yep.
side quests didn't bother me in chapter 2. Then chapter 3 happens. Beginning first half, really cool. Like the underground cult, all that stuff.
Yep.
And then it just screeched to a halt. Constant platforming sections, constant backtracking, constant climbing on all these crazy, going up all these levels, elevators, and it was like nonstop. It felt like it was 45 minutes too long, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, when is this chapter going to end? And it just
Yeah.
went on and on, and then a boss fight happened. Oh, guess what? You beat him. Nope, you gotta fight him again. I was just
And no checkpoint. No
and no
checkpoint. I was
checkpoint.
gonna mention. I mentioned this later in our cons. This is such bullshit. You beat him, and then he comes back out because he's got 2 hearts. Fuck off. I'm glad that
That's
they
not even
try
how
to
it works.
justify
That's not
it,
even how it works.
but it's not as fuck you. That's stupid. But you don't get a checkpoint. At least if you're gonna have your bullshit sci-fi nonsense in here, give me a checkpoint after I already beat him clean. Right now, I do appreciate they give you all your stims back. And I didn't even notice that the first 2 times I lost. They do give you all your stims back, so that's nice. But that's not a checkpoint.
Yeah.
That's not the same fucking thing at all.
Yeah.
And so I think it took me 5 tries, maybe 7, to beat the first boss. And when I say first boss, I mean there's not really any other boss fights in the game, so it just feels weird that they even had it there to begin with. To be honest, but yeah.
And then the side
There are
quests.
boss fights, but there's not a proper boss fight like the first one.
Yeah, that was like a big.
In that way.
Yeah, that was like the big one. I haven't experienced any other bosses like that since. All right, the side quests just don't do it for me. But I think that was more of a product of chapter 4 coming after chapter 3. I was already like, oh no, I am not. I am bored right now. That's my biggest criticism of this game. There's been too many times where I was either frustrated or bored, and those are the 2 worst things to be in games. I played plenty of bad games, objectively bad games, where I was never bored. This game, if I'm like, oh my god, I really want to get this game over with. I've had that thought too many times while playing this. I really want to get this over with. I'm doing this.
Yeah, I had that thought too, where it was like there were sections where I was so frustrated. I was like, I can't wait for this section to be over. I can't wait to be done with this. This is just feels, it's pacing, right? It just feels like bad pacing.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to pad out their game from a reasonable 8 to 10 hours to an unreasonable 10 to 13 hours.
Exactly. This game is too long. And
too padded.
And the reason I didn't like the side quests is because like after chapter 3 I was burned out, and then chapter 4 was like, oh, we're slow section again. Now 5 and 6 got better than after that, but it's just all over the place. It's like up and down for me.
Yeah, the pacing's very inconsistent in terms they'll do these fast-paced combat sections, but then very slow to a crawl puzzle platforming sections, and then back to combat, and then you're back in a hub area doing a bunch of side quests that aren't super like interesting, and then you're back to combat, and then it's just all over the place. I just feel like they should have cut something out to improve the pacing.
And as much as the presentation of this game is fantastic and the graphics are fantastic, the pixel art actually hurts the game in the gameplay sections, because sometimes in the combat, I don't know who's fighting me and who's like in the background. And the platforming, I swear I jump on the right section and it doesn't register it. I can't tell what's the proper ledge and what's not.
There's this ability that you get where you're able to hook into the wall of certain points, and it's literally difficult for me to tell what part of the wall I'm supposed to.
Yeah, and even to add on to that, there's parts where they want you to jump on the like lantern or the railings to know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know, I couldn't find it because I was like, I thought it was just part of the background that they wanted me to swing on these railings.
Yeah,
it was confusing. There's too many. There's been several times where this game where I've had to look at a guide or something because I didn't know where to go.
Mhm.
because I didn't know you wanted me to go all the way back, climb on this platform, and then swing across because it didn't look like anything that would indicate that's where I'm supposed
Yeah.
to go. And there's
Yeah,
puzzles
sometimes
like that
things are
too.
just not highlighted enough. There's
Yeah.
I feel I'm sure some people are going to be upset about this, but there's just not enough yellow paint in this game at times. In
Yes.
terms of like, and by yellow paint, really what I mean is like highlighted interactable environments or
Yeah.
objects in the environment,
Right.
and it gets frustrating navigating because you're just not sure where to go or what to do.
Yeah. All right. And then you also mentioned that there's too many sections where he falls.
Yeah, this is ridiculous, dude. How many fucking times do we need Reach to dramatically? I'm sorry, I know this is such a nitpick. This really is like a really small nitpick, but he falls. It must be 3 or 4 times throughout the whole game, and then the screen does the whining, like the tinnitus kind of like the whining thing,
Yeah.
and to be all dramatic. And I'm like, this is the third fucking time he's fell from a distant height. You know what's also annoying too? And I just remembered this when you jump even like 5 feet too high, you die. But in the cutscenes, when you fall like 50 fucking
He's
feet,
fine.
it doesn't matter at all. He's totally fine. He picks himself up. I'm like, to make it make sense. So yeah, that was frustrating to me.
The but the
Um,
biggest thing for you, I think, is the mini game, the hacking mini game. That was
Fucking hell,
that was
dude.
what pissed you off the most.
I almost quit the game. So there is a part. I think it's chapter 5 or 6 or something. You've gotten it right? The hacking mini game. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. This took me 20 minutes to figure out because the tutorial is very loosey goosey on instructions. It's very vague. It only shows up once, and once you cancel out of it, you can't get it back. Now you can get a shortened version of the tutorial on your menu, but it's not the same thing. So it's completely unhelpful. I had no idea what they fucking wanted me to do. At first, I thought it was a matching game, and they said match the complementary patterns. What the fuck does that mean? So that it took me 20 minutes. I'm like on the I'm on the verge of tears. I'm like I'm not even like I am being hyperbolic a little bit, but like I'm just spent. I'm like I can't. I spent money. I'm 8 hours in. I'm like I just want to be done with this fucking game. And now they've thrown this new mini game. Nobody likes. I don't want to say nobody likes hacking mini games, but like lock picking games and like hacking mini games, similar hacking mini games has to be done very, very well or very specifically. No, I don't think many people, I'm not going to say no one, I don't think many people are actively asking for hacking mini games in the year of our Lord 2026. I'm certainly not. But anyway, this was super annoying. So what you're supposed to do is there's a pattern on the left and there's a bunch of patterns on the right. And the patterns on the right may or may not match, like fill the pattern on the left. And so you're supposed to just smush them together. But the thing is, you have to do this 3 times. Every time you get it wrong, the time bar, that's right, you're getting timed as if the shit wasn't stressful enough. You're getting timed, and every time you get it wrong, the time bar goes way down. This took me 20 minutes. I almost quit. I actually had Kim. I almost had Kim. I was at that point. I was like, Kim, can you please do this for me? I'm losing my I'm losing my mind. But I was able to figure it out, and then I did get better as the game got on. I even did it first try a handful of times. So eventually I understood. But Jesus Christ, can we put a better tutorial for this? Because complementary patterns doesn't do it for me. I didn't know what the fuck you wanted from me, what I was supposed to do, or how. Maybe this was intuitive for everybody else. Maybe Seb got it in seconds. I didn't know what the
No,
fuck I
no,
wanted.
it was bad. It was really bad.
Okay, good, good.
It's probably the worst part of the game, honestly.
Yeah, it was terrible. I'm like, who's asking for this in 2026?
Yeah, I had to look
Yeah,
at a guide.
I also want to mention I wrote about this game on Second Chance and Once More, which is my blog. Plug, plug, plug. So go check that out. But in that article, I go into more detail about some of the points I brought up. So just want to mention that real quick. And then one thing about the combat, I think Seb and I both agree combat's one of the best parts about this game. But there are problems, which we mentioned earlier. Sometimes there's too many prompts. There's too many. This hasn't. I don't know if this has happened to Seb yet because he's only in chapter 7. But bro, when you get in chapter 9 and 10,
I heard
and there are
this.
multiple heavy enemies, multiple gun enemies, there are some enemies that are so quick you can't hit them with normal attacks. You have to counter them.
Yeah.
And they're all happening at the same time. And there's no. It feels like there's no. And I think the IGN review pointed this out, so I'm kind of copying from them. but there's no like predetermined assortment of enemies. You'll just get a hodgepodge of enemy types right next to each other, even if it doesn't make any sense for your human brain to
Yeah.
comprehend. They'll be like, hey, press this to fire back at them, and then dodge real quick, and then counter, and then do this, and you have to do it all within like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's like it gets overwhelming.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I've experienced this already.
Okay.
Because the mid chapters do this too. There's like so many
Yeah.
enemies on screen, and there's just too many prompts coming up, and I can only react so fast. And I swear, even
Yes.
the game doesn't register my prompts. Like I'm hitting the button correctly, and it's just
Yep.
not doing what I'm saying.
That happened to me a couple times where I like kind of yelled and I'm like, I definitely pressed that.
Yeah.
And it just acted like I didn't.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
just feels like this game was not play tested that much. Like there's a lot of things that could have been fixed just by like playing this like a lot. And I don't know. Maybe they just didn't care. I don't know. I'm not saying the devs didn't care or anything, but like I just feel like a lot of this was not tested.
Yeah. Two more things I want to point out. One, some people might give me flack for this, but the dev team specifically posted at one point an anti-war message about how everything in Russia and Ukraine is terrible and stuff like that, which I totally agree with, and it was a great message. And they literally had to move to complete this game because of the war in Ukraine, the invasion from Russia and stuff like that. So I totally get that. Great stuff from them in terms of their message. Unfortunately, they are also financed by the same corporation that finances Atomic Heart, which is like this Russian corporation that is involved in war profiteering. I didn't look into this. Somebody randomly brought it up on the Steam forums because I needed help with the hacking minigame. That's how desperate I was. I went on the fucking Steam forums and typed like, please fix this because this is shit. I said that nicer, but yeah. And so somebody was like, hey, isn't it weird that like the Gem Corporation does this? And I'm like, what the fuck? So anyway, it doesn't really matter in the game itself. And I still think the game is good, but it is frustrating because the game is very much about capitalism is bad. Society has a lot of issues. War is definitely one of them. Also, we're taking millions of dollars from a war profiteering corporation. Feels a little weird. I'm just saying, feels a little weird. I'm not telling anyone to boycott the game over it. I'm not saying don't buy this game. It just seems a little weird. But yeah, last thing I'll mention, very minor. You can't skip dialogue at all. Even if you've read it, even if you're fully ahead, even if you're a quick reader like me, and for 10 seconds you've been looking at the same fucking dialogue. I know it doesn't sound like much, but over time, this is a very text-heavy game, as Seb said. It adds up. It just adds up, and it just gets a little annoying. It's like I want to move on. I know what they're saying. Can I press the A button, please?
And I have one more con as well, which is there's no chapter select. So if you miss one collectible, you got to play the whole game over again.
That's the thing in Mouse PI, too. I'm going to warn you right now. That's the thing in Mouse PI as well. There's no chapter select once you beat the game. I don't understand the reasoning for it. It's really bad for completionists. Luckily, I'm not a completionist, so it doesn't matter to me. But for people like you or anybody, really, it sucks.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to go chase that anyway. I don't like this game that much to 100% like that.
I wouldn't recommend it.
And you got to do a second playthrough or something like that for the highest difficulty.
Oh, fuck that.
I don't know if there's a difficulty or something. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game. No. Press Pragmata. That has a.
That is Pragmata you're thinking of.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't like that you miss one collectible. And the collectibles are really hard to find, some of them. If I was looking at a guide, I'd be clueless. And obviously it's not on PlayStation, so like there's a very limited selection of guides and achievement websites to use and look things up and things like that. Like, Xbox is lousy in comparison to PlayStation trophy websites that have like, full guides and stuff like that. And I probably would have found a better hacking guide if this game was on PlayStation right now. But anyway, overall, Dory, what would you give this game?
I went back and forth on this. For a good amount of time, I was at a Starfield 8, but some of those late game chapters, which you haven't gotten to, I'm so sorry, my condolences, frustrated me so much. I was like, this ain't a Starfield 8. This is just a whole ass 7. I want this game to be an 8. I really want to love it more than I do because I love noir. I love cyberpunk. I love Arkham-style stuff. I love the soundtrack. I think a lot of the writing is great. There's this adorable girl in an arcade machine that, not an arcade machine, in an arcade that we haven't even talked about, and she's really cool.
Susan, is her name?
I think it's Susan, yeah. But she's adorable and a great part of the game too. And there's so much going for this game, but god damn, do they squander it through the platforming, and even honestly, some of the combat is finicky. So yeah, I'd have to give it a strong 7 out of 10. Maybe a 7.5 if I was feeling charitable. But it's a 7 out of 10. I feel like this is the first. We're in April now, so almost halfway through the year, a couple months to go. I feel like this is the big first letdown of 2026. Not massively, because it's not a bad game by any
Yeah, it's
means,
a good game.
but there's just it's a good game, but there's just too many problems. There's just too
Yeah,
many
I
issues.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a 7 out of 10 for me as well. I think it's a great foundation to build on. I think it has great presentation, a good story, has good characters, it has great atmosphere, great visuals, great soundtrack, and these are all things you can build on. And but the issues are really hurt this game, and
yeah,
so I there's times where I could have said this game is a 6 out of 10, honestly, and
yeah,
but 7 out of 10 I think is a fair score for it.
yeah,
I think a next game, if they do the next game they do, if they do something like this, I think you can really uh, improve upon your problems, because like all this game really needed to be was a shorter game, have some
yeah,
platforming, but make the platforming better and make it not as frequent, and like make it more of a set piece, like like
yeah,
like a state like a no, it's and then like the combat should be less, like it should be less combat. Like this game should be cut in, like 1/3 of this game should be cut out completely and just a
yeah.
more contained 6 to 7 hour experience. Better, and then let the visuals the talking, and this game would have been a 9 out of 10. But because it's so long that you feel that all the issues start showing. The sections feel draggy, the platforming feels long, and then you start seeing all the problems, just puzzles that don't need to be in there that just drag it out. It's just too
Yeah.
many things that add up
It
for me.
it says on Steam. I don't think this is accurate because come to think of it, my save file said something like 9 hours, like in game time. But my Steam count says like 13.6. So I don't know. Go figure that one
I
out.
never
But yeah,
go by
it's
that.
still it felt way too long. This should have been an 8 to 10 hour game.
Yeah,
More towards the 8, honestly. And some of these platforming sections needed to be cut down.
yeah,
I agree with Seb. More set piece, more cinematic, less
yeah. Set piece is the word.
finicky. If
Yeah,
you're gonna keep the finicky shit, at least give me checkpoints, please. That's all I
yeah,
ask.
exactly. I said this when I first saw the game. This game should be like a 5 hour kind of like, let the visuals do the telling kind of game, and
Yeah,
I would have been way more into this game. As you said, first big letdown of the year. I agree. This game is in my disappointing category. 7 out of 10 is a good score. It's a good game. I'm not saying it's a
yeah,
horrible game, but this is a disappointing game for me. And if I did a list of most disappointing games, considering how much I was excited for this game, this is beyond the list. Unfortunately, it just did
yeah.
not live up to the hype for me. Unfortunately. All right, that's that. Now a game that did live up to the hype, Pragmata, which is Capcom's next big AAA game. They came after coming off Resident Evil Requiem, and they're not even done yet because Onimusha comes out this year as well. And Pragmata is a sci-fi action adventure game set on a deserted lunar facility. It's on the moon. You play as a space traveler, Hugh, who gets stranded on the moon after something goes wrong, and you're soon accompanied by a mysterious android girl, Diana, who helps you survive and escape. The game mixes exploration, combat, puzzle solving, but the big twist is that you don't just fight the enemies, you also have to hack and disable them in real time, which adds a strategic layer to the encounters. So let's get to the pros. Now the pros, first off, the visuals are incredible. The RE engine shines once again in this self-contained game with that's more linear, like Resident Evil games, right? I've noticed now that I've been playing practically every Capcom game since, for like I don't know how long now. With this engine, I mean 2017. Let's say 2017 is when this engine came out, right? Resident Evil 7. I played practically every game that's had the RE engine since 2017, and what I've noticed is the RE engine really shines when the game is more linear, more self-contained, like Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, this game, so on and so forth. When it's open world like Monster Hunter, that's when the problems happen. For whatever reason, this engine has a hard time with open world games. That's what I've noticed. I know this is not really nothing to do with Pragmata. I'm just saying when Capcom makes a more self-contained game, this game is very self-contained, very linear. The visuals are incredible. This game is gorgeous. It looks amazing. Just the Earth in the background is beautiful to look at. Space looks amazing. The visuals of the space station, very white, um, just looks great. And this game has such a great atmosphere to it. It has Dead Space and Alien vibes. That's what vibes I was getting. The beginning of this game feels like a horror game. It feels like something bad's about to happen, right? It feels like Dead Space opening. Like, oh, they're venturing into the ship. They don't know what's happening, and then something happens to the crew. It's like Alien too, right? This game is very Alien. Like, I'm expecting to see an xenomorph come out of nowhere, right? Because the white, everything's white, like, everything's shiny. You know what I'm talking about, Dory? Like, it looks like an Alien franchise,
Yeah,
but instead of Alien, it's a rogue AI. Rogue AI, but
yeah,
now we'll get into that's a bit of a trope and it's been done a million times, but it works. The story works. I have issues with the story in terms of like how generic and simple it is, but it works. But the visuals and the atmosphere incredible. I think
yeah.
that's where this game really shines. Start first of all.
I agree.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my only criticism I could possibly give is that there's a lot of white in this game. Of course, because you're in a space station, there's a lot of sterility,
Yeah,
and the art direction can get. I've seen that criticism that the art direction can get a little stale and
yeah,
repetitive.
I can see that.
I don't personally feel that way, but I understand that. Like, I
Yeah,
never got tired of looking at like the
yeah,
sleek architecture of the space station, and I felt like they mixed it up enough with later
yeah.
levels,
I agree.
especially.
Yeah,
But yeah, I otherwise completely agree with you. This is a beautiful, gorgeous game. I had some issues with Diana's hair because it's just so voluminous. But I was able to tweak the engine a little bit, and it
yeah.
looked better. Without too much wear and tear on my PC. But yeah, a beautiful game.
Yeah, beautiful game. You're right. I didn't feel like it was stale or get repetitive. Like, because I feel like
No.
this game is too fast and like linear that you're not in one
Yes.
section for too long to like sit there and stare at the same thing over and over again. And I thought the
Yeah.
six sections had a nice variety, overall. Like there's neon sections, right? Like you're in a big city, and then there's
Yeah.
and then you're in a spaceship, and then you're outside, and and then you're in a jungle. I thought there was a variety of locations. Personally,
I agree.
I don't see that problem. But the best part of this game is the gameplay loop. It's fun and addicting, and it really shouldn't work, but it just
It shouldn't.
does. It
This game, this I can't emphasize what Seb just said enough. This game should have been a fucking disaster.
Yeah,
There's no way this game should fucking work. You are shooting and hacking at the same time while moving and dodging. My ADHD ass should not be able to play this game, let alone my autistic ADHD ass should play in this game. This should be a disaster, not just for me, but for many people. And yet it works because it is so intuitive. It's so easy. There's just enough wrinkles. They give you so many tools. They give you so many modes. They color code things. It's just done beautifully. They
yeah,
couldn't have done this combat any better. I literally went out of my way to do challenge rooms. I never do that. Almost never do that in action games because although I like being challenged, I don't usually like those kind of optional add-ons that these kind of games do because like I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I can
sure.
get stressed easily at games sometimes. I don't usually want the smoke. But this game, I was like, give me the smoke. I fucking want to experience all this gameplay. I love this gameplay.
Yeah,
This was peak. This was
right.
so good. I,
Yes,
I had a good feeling from the demo. This is the last thing I'll say. I
yeah,
had a good feeling from the demo, and I was like, this could be really good. And I wasn't sure because it was only a 15-minute snippet, not even. So I was like, it seemed really intuitive. It seemed really good. But I'm like, we'll see.
right.
Maybe that stops as you get later
Yeah,
on and things get more complicated. But I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was really good the whole way through.
yeah. There was some frustrations we'll get into at times, but for the most part, it was fantastic. Like the gameplay of this game
Yeah.
is the best part of the game. This game is
Yes.
very old school. What I mean by that is it's very linear. and you're mainly just walking through straight into hallways, and then you're exploring like a side section or a mini or hidden wall, and then you move on to the next section. It feels very much like a game from a long time
And they
ago.
do this thing that I love, and I someday I want to make a fucking list about all the games that do this. But you can press, I think it's the right, like the right directional pad down or something, or
Yeah,
right directional stick down, and it'll point you in the right direction, just like in Dead Space. And
yeah,
I love when games do that. Oh my god, it's my favorite thing because I'm so directionally challenged. Now that's how good this game is, generally speaking. I almost never got lost. I think I can
yeah,
count on one hand, and I don't even have to use half my fingers on that hand. How many times I got lost in this
yeah,
9 hour game or 10 hour
yeah,
game,
yeah.
whatever it was.
It's
Yeah,
very
it's good.
streamlined. It's very
Yes,
straightforward. It has a great scan feature. Like it shows you where
yes,
everything is. There's some sections where like this is more of like if you're into like getting 100% of the game, which you weren't. I assume you didn't go after every
no,
collectible.
no.
But there's some collectibles where like I don't know how the hell to get that, like that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
for the but otherwise, like the main game itself, the main story itself was like I never got lost. Very straightforward, right to the point. This game
yeah,
does follow a very straight path, and also you get into a big section and then you fight a bunch of enemies. Follow a section, get into a fight a bunch of enemies. Like it follows a pattern. That might get repetitive for some people, but I think because it's so streamlined and fast and fun that I don't think you'll care. Right? It's kind of like Devil May
yeah,
Cry because if you break down Devil May Cry, it's really repetitive, right? Like you're literally just like
right.
solve a puzzle, get trapped in a big area with a bunch of monsters, fight them to so you can continue on, do the same thing over and over again. That's what this game is, but it's just so much fun that you don't care, and it's so streamlined. It's so refreshing to have a nice streamlined AAA game where in an industry where everything's so bloated and everything's like 60 hours long. We're gonna make this game as long as possible. Capcom's like, nah, we're gonna do like a nice 10 to 12 hour game
Yeah.
and just
And
have fun.
unlike in Replace, that feels earned. It felt earned to me. I mean, there are. I don't mean to keep dipping into cons because I do truly love this game. It's an excellent game, but there are some times where it's like go through a locked door just to get to another locked door to
Yeah, it's repetitive.
unlock a bunch of doors, and like that can feel like more than repetitive. It feels like padding. It feels like okay, come
Sure.
on. Even Hugh lampshades it. He's like, come on, not another fucking door.
Yeah,
And I'm like, you, buddy, that's not the way. Let's not highlight this. We don't need to highlight this,
yeah.
buddy. But still, that was very, very few times that
Yeah.
that actually bothered me because because the other thing too about this combat's rewarding, but as Seb was just talking about, exploration is rewarding. You get so much Luna filament where you can upgrade your weapons. You get these cool challenge rooms. You get these cool figurines. You get stuff like cabin coins to fill out bingo charts, so you can get more items, so
Yeah.
you can upgrade, your canisters, so you can heal more often,
Yep.
and a bunch of other stuff, like
Yeah. I
interesting
was about to mention
vials and
this.
stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the upgrading in this game is great. I really
it is
enjoy it, and it kind of feels like a roguelike. Not in the sense that it's random or anything like that. Like you
right.
kind of go on a run, right? And then you like, but like, and then you have like multiple checkpoints basically where
Yes,
like you
I
can,
felt like this too. I'm glad I wasn't going crazy. I'm like, this feels like a roguelike in a
yeah,
way, or like not a Souls like in terms of difficulty, but a Souls like in terms of like if you lose, then you return to the last checkpoint and all the enemies respawn, or if you leave, you do the bonfire. Um,
basically it's
and
basically a bonfire.
yeah,
Yeah, like
it basically is a
because you
bonfire.
can access your main hub from multiple locations. There's an achievement for getting all those main hubs unlocked, and yeah, I think it feels like a roguelike to me, but not random, which is great because
Right.
I don't I'm generally not a fan of roguelites personally, or I get sick of them. Um, it works. I just love the upgrading. I love customizing the main hub. Like you get collectibles and
Yes.
you get to see Diana just have fun. She's on a slide. She's playing with balloons. She's just
There's this amazing,
yeah,
amazing jive you've probably seen of her going up the slide and then coming down it like face forward, and it says "wasted" like in GTA. So
yeah,
good. Incredible stat by the way about GTA. Well, we're very, very quickly on this weird offshoot. Black Flag came out in 2013. What else came out in 2013?
GTA
GTA
5.
5. The
Yeah.
GT Black Flag Resynced coming out this year. Guess what's
GTA 6.
allegedly coming out this year? Anyway,
Yeah.
we haven't even talked about the best fucking part of this game.
Diana.
If this little girl starts a cult, I'm there day one. I've already told Seb I'm murdering him on the spot and all my friends and family. I love Diana so much. She is probably one of my favorite characters of this year. I'm not saying she's like my L status, but I do adore her. She gives you these little, and I made this reference at the beginning of the episode, but she gives you these pictures if you talk to her enough and you give her enough presents. Which why would you monster?
I do all the time.
And I think I filled out the whole wall pretty quickly. But it's just she's so precious. She feels so genuine. She's written so well. I mean, Seb and I both work with kids, so we know what kids sound like.
Yeah.
And obviously, she's an android or whatever, and she's a Pragmata, which is the fucking title. But she sounds like a kid who's unaware of how the world works and is naive, and she has a basic understanding of certain things like language and socialization and stuff. But there's a lot of things she doesn't understand, right? The danger that she's in, or what's happening to Hugh, and everything else. So I just feel like the way that they write her genuinely is so amazing. It really carries this game character-wise and story-wise. But yeah, what did you think of Diana?
Yeah, she's amazing. I really enjoy her character. I think she is going to be one, if not the most iconic character of this year. I think when people think of like gaming this year, they're going to think of like her. I think she's going to be like one of those like Mael kind of characters. People are going to just absolutely love. So she's like iconic in a sense. Like she's going to be she's a character like people are going to think of for a long time and when they think of Capcom, she's probably going to be in promotional art and things like that.
This game has done so well. It's already sold, I believe, over 1 million copies in the 1 week it's been out, which for a new IP, a brand new IP, I know it's Capcom, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a huge publisher, but still, for a brand new, untested IP, that's really impressive, right? You can say, oh, Rogue AI, dad space, daughter, father thing. Yeah. Like, it's all been done before, but I feel like mixing all those things together and still a brand new IP getting even 500,000 in the first week is really impressive because it's such a saturated market at this point. Video games are more popular than ever. There's more money than ever put into them. You wouldn't know that by all the firing that's going on, but I digress.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm very happy for Capcom because they deserve the success. They are one of the best developers at this point.
Yeah.
I've been jokingly saying that Capcom can't miss, and I mean,
Cap Gods.
They can obviously, but
yeah,
they're doing so fucking well this year.
The Cap Gods are here.
The Cap Gods, that's right.
Yeah. So Diana is going to be like an iconic Capcom character. I could see this franchise getting a second one and a third one. Like I could see this game having like they're gonna make sequels. I just feel like this game's gonna have sequels.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, and Diana's just too iconic. She's probably going to be a main character. Hugh, on the other hand, he's pretty boring. But that's my con. I won't get into that yet. Right. I really like the red rooms, the red challenges.
Yes,
those are really
red
fun.
ROM.
Just because, as you already mentioned this before, but because the gameplay is so much fun, it's just fun doing a challenge. Honestly, that's really why it's good. And you get the rewards are actually good.
Yes,
for doing it, and so it's worth doing it. And as you mentioned, I like the bingo system too.
Yes.
It's really
that was very fun.
It's really rewarding and fun, and it's just another thing to do, and that was cool. I like the little robot. It kind of reminded me of board. Yeah, it was really cute.
Yeah, very cute.
Yeah. You already mentioned the exploration being good and fun. The bosses, the bosses
are super cool.
They're really cool and they're unique and they're different from each other.
And you haven't even gotten to the final boss, which was so cool. I really love the final boss that they did. I won't say anything. I won't spoil anything, but they're handled very well. And they're very cool, imposing. They're unique. They all feel like different. I'm not saying that they're unique necessarily within the pantheon of gaming, but within the game itself, they all feel very different from each other.
Yeah. If you get into that whole conversation about like this game being generic or tropey or whatever, like then how many bosses how many Scorpion bosses have we fought?
Yes, I was just thinking that, yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to praise this game for how well balanced it felt. I felt like I should have been trash at this game, but honestly, I felt like I was pretty decent. I mean, I'm not saying I'm amazing. I'm not going to start speedrunning this game, God no. But I felt like I was pretty good by the end of the game, and was able to pull off a trick or two that I would not have been able to pull off by the end. So that felt very cool and very satisfying.
Yeah,
We've already talked about Diana.
and you mentioned the
Um,
training missions are good.
the training missions, I think that's a cool way to help you refine your skills and reward you for doing so. I have some criticisms for how the later training missions feel because they border onto frustrating, and I just stopped doing them because I was
Yeah,
like, I don't need this headache. But and similar to the replace side missions, they feel kind of necessary for you to get enough cabin coins so you can
right.
upgrade your stuff and filament.
Yeah.
But whatever.
And the voice acting of Diana is really good. We already talked about Diana,
Yes.
and then finally,
Yeah, the ending. I won't say anything, of course. It just came out, but I will say I did not expect much from this game. This game was delayed quite a few times. It was a weird looking Kojima esque IP from
and
Capcom.
it
I
still
had no idea
is.
what to expect,
It still
and
kind
it
of,
still is.
yeah,
It still kind of is, but I got so emotionally invested in this relationship, this dynamic between Diana and Hugh. It absolutely melted my heart. I work with kids, so of course I'm very much the target audience. I love kids, and I think, obviously there's a difference between Diana and your average kid because she's AI,
yeah.
she's a robot. Um,
Plus you work with younger kid. I work with
yes,
like more like Ellie's than I
yeah,
work
sure.
than
I do work with some middle school kids, but that's the minority. I would say the majority
yeah,
are elementary school. So yeah, more like Diana. Diana's, I think she's 7 or something, supposed to
yeah.
be something
My
like
kids
that.
are like 12
So that,
and 13.
so that's more my age group. And yeah, I just think the way that they did her and Hugh's relationship is super good. But yeah, let's go into the cons because we do have some negative things to say about the game.
Yeah. So my biggest con is the story, and this is the reason why this game is not in that like elite category with Last of Us or something like that, like where it really
Sure.
could have been on that level, and it wasn't for me. And it's because of the story. It's just isn't. It's not hard hitting. It's really rushed, honestly, at times. Like they bond way too fast. I think they don't have they don't have enough scenes where they just really get to sit down and talk, and there's not really story elements that are interesting. A lot of things could have been developed a lot better. The story is just it's the pro and the con of this game. Everything's so streamlined that the story suffers from that. Like I think Diana works because she's so cute and adorable and everything like that. But if she wasn't adorable, I don't. It wouldn't work. We just naturally sympathize for her, but just because she's young and innocent like that. Because Hugh is just a boring character. He's just bland. They don't do anything with this
Generic,
character.
bland, cis white dude, number 5005.
No, it's like yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
He's, and look, I don't hate Hugh by any means, but that's the problem. I have no real investment in Hugh. Hugh is just
Yeah,
Hugh. You could have honestly, you could have maybe not had Hugh in the game at all. Like I lean towards almost you could have had him out of the game and Diana just talking to herself or the robots. And it still would have been a compelling game because Diana's that good, right? I understand that you need Hugh for the straight man and for the for
yeah,
her to have a father figure and stuff. So I get that. I wouldn't want to take that out of the game. So that's why I wouldn't fully say that. But there is a small part of me that's like, you could take Hugh out of
yeah.
this and you're honestly
They
not
did.
missing
Yeah,
that much.
they didn't. They really didn't. They needed to make him a lot much better character. They needed. He should have been like Joel, because Joel is just as iconic as Ellie,
They tried
and
to do some stuff with his backstory and
it just
him
doesn't work.
like being, but it just doesn't, there's nothing to it. There's nothing coming from, like, there's just no big conversations, there's no big moments.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't amount to much.
The story just wasn't hitting for me for the most
No.
part, and even in the ending I'm sure like it has some great moments and stuff like sad and all that, but I don't know. I feel like this story I'm just gonna be like whatever. I enjoyed this game, but the story is not gonna it's not gonna stay with me for like certain games do, right? And this game has a lot of tropes. It has a lot of angry AI done a million times,
Yeah.
especially on the nose nowadays. 'Cause everybody hates AI right now. And then
Right.
the dad daughter relationship thing is feels like The Last of Us again. Like they keep doing the dad and the girl relationship. I mean, obviously, like he's just a guy and she's just an android girl, and they're not like they don't really have a huge dynamic together. Like but it's been done a trillion times. It is what it is. It's not a big con. These are all this. Some of this is just nip. The story part is a big con for me, but the this isn't more of a nitpick. It's just tropes. A lot of tropes. AI, the robots. Um, I do think that you fight the when you fight the robots. I feel like there's a variety of them, but I feel like it does start getting like the same ones over and over again at times. Um, so I had that problem a little bit, but again, not a major problem. My second biggest con, which is not a huge con, but it's there. When there's a lot of enemies on screen, that's when the gameplay loop starts not working for me. It gets a little frustrating. Because like there's times where like there's just like 12 enemies on screen, and I just don't have the time to do what they want me to do. There's ways to get around that. But it didn't happen that much in terms of like my frustration, but there was a couple of moments where I had to like really be on my toes and stuff like that. But it was there. This game is not designed to have like 12 enemies on screen. Um, it's meant to have like maybe 3 or 4, and then have like a giant boss or something, but not when there's like a ton of enemies. But again, not a huge con for me. It wasn't that bad. Um, the platforming is stiff. It doesn't affect most of the game, if not any of the game, because you don't really get platformed that much, and when you do, you're just gliding across the gap or whatever. But like you feel it, you definitely feel the slowness of the platforming when you're doing the training sections. He's just so slow. I just like I get he's wearing a ton of armor, but he moves like molasses. He moves like he's walking on molasses. So the gliding is just too slow for me. Sometimes I feel like he should be gliding a little faster than he is, and then it's like, and I missed the platforming because he didn't reach onto the ledge because the glide's just not that great. But again, really was an issue. Maybe a couple times I had this problem. Minor nitpick,
Yeah, same.
minor issue. My one of my biggest problems with this game too is a lot of the story elements that could have been done effectively through a cutscene or something was done through data pads. A lot of the lore of this game was done through data pads, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves with these kind of games. Like because I think Horizon had this problem, like a lot of cool things about the lore and all that in the world, and it's done through a data pad that I'm not going to read. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to read the data pads for every little thing. There's just too many data pads everywhere that I'm going to sit there and read paragraphs. I'm too invested in the gameplay and do that through visual storytelling. I'm not there for reading. If I want to do reading, I'll play like certain games. Like
Yeah, like Baldur's Gate or Planescape or something.
yeah, exactly. And I know what I'm getting into for those games, but I don't want that
Yeah,
in this game. And not I don't mind. I'm not saying all that. Never put any of these kind of things in these games, but I'm saying like don't have
moderation.
major lore elements in your data pads. Have it be
Yeah.
told visually through your storytelling.
I saw that criticism from elsewhere before, and as I got like halfway through the game, I was like, I don't know, it hasn't been that bad. And then later on in the game, there are a couple of like shocking, not shocking, but there are a couple of huge. That's going back to what you said. There nothing about this game surprised me in terms of the storyline. I predicted pretty much
Yes,
every single beat that would happen
tropey, very tropey.
because very tropey, which is a problem, of course. But as I was saying, late in the game, there are some bombs dropped in terms of the plot, and it's fucking contained to a data log and a 1 or 2 lines by Hugh, and then they quickly move on. And I'm like, the fuck, that was a huge plot line that you're just skipping over.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah.
um,
I think
all
that's it for
right,
me for cons.
yeah, I'll talk about my cons again. No spoilers at all, but there is a secret ending, and I do feel like they Sea of Starred themselves here because they kind of cheapened the main ending by overwriting what you
Oh,
see
I
in the
hate that.
main
I
ending.
hate that. I hate when games do
Yeah,
that.
and it's a lot of work for the secret ending. You've got to do some secret. It kind of reminded me of the data fights in KH2 and KH3 because you're kind of surrounded by these pods. So it kind of reminded me of the portals from Kingdom Hearts 2. Anyways, I'm a
Yeah.
nerd and always connect things to Kingdom Hearts, but um, so you've got to do all these secret pods that have very challenging rooms, and to open those pods, you've got to do like 100% exploration in certain areas and
Yeah.
get all the collectibles, and then all you get out of it. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything. Is like a 5 to 10 second little line and then a graphic, and then you also the credits have like hand drawn like concept art, and that's it. And that's all you get for all that fucking effort. So I just watched it on YouTube. There's no point. Just look it up. It but it trivializes the main ending, which I cried at, and is, as far as I'm concerned, my ending, unless they make it better. Um, the later training missions just felt frustrating. That platforming stuff just being a little too finicky. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then just too many times the cabin coins were locked behind not doing the main objective, but doing a side
Yeah,
objective.
that
Like,
I
that
forgot to
feels
mention that.
backwards.
I didn't like that
Yeah,
either. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Good.
Yeah, it just felt backwards. It felt like the main objective is me to get from point A to point B, and that should get me the cabin coin. Doing the extra things like turning on these sensors or defeating all these enemies or completing this goal within a certain amount of time, that should be filament, that should be upgrade cubes, whatever. But it was totally backwards in some situations. I I think yeah, Seb's definitely gotten here. There's a mechanic late in the game called cleanse, because there's some corruption going on. I won't go into too much more detail because I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But it's kind of clunky, and it's got a very limited range. And even when you do hit monsters with it, or monsters, robots, it doesn't always one shot remove the toxic stuff. Sometimes you got to do it twice. I think that's maybe just for bosses, but it's still annoying.
Yeah.
It led to my death at least once or twice, so I felt like
Yeah.
um it felt worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Um
I think that's
and
it.
then
I don't know.
and then I just want to reiterate, he was very generic. He just could have been
Yeah.
any, I know Seb said this, I know I said this, could be any generic white dude, and it would have worked. And I just feel like we should be past the mid. I know this game, it feels like a throwback to Xbox 360, but that doesn't mean our protagonists have to feel like that. So
Yeah.
truly, we do not need to hew ourselves over and over again. Also, I want to mention, and this is probably obvious to a lot of people, but the main protagonist of this game is a Hugh man, or a man named Hugh. And also Diana, you can't spell without AI. So I thought that was cute. I don't know if Seb, you noticed that. I noticed that immediately because puns.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's cute.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that he's like a white guy that bothers me over he's a soldier.
No, I'm just adding that because it's
no, I
always
know.
a fucking,
No, I
it's
know.
always a dude, it's always a white guy.
It's just that it's been done so many times that he's just a boring character
Yeah.
because it feels
It's
like we've seen it a trillion times. So it's always like a straight army white guy, right? It's just
Yeah.
buzz cut, like
Buzzcut.
yeah, it's been done a million times.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, what would you give this game overall?
I would give this game a strong 9 out of 10. Not a 10. There's too many problems. Not a 5 out of 5. There's too many problems. But I would say it's a strong 4.5, 9 out of 10 for me. This game was excellent. It was way more than I ever expected it to be. I did not have such high expectations for it. I thought maybe this will be a great game or even a really great game. I did not expect this to be excellent. This has got to be my top 5 alongside Esoteric Ebb, Mouse. Well, kind of spoilers for next week, but Mouse PI, and Resident Evil. I mean, it's got to be in my top 5 somewhere. So
Yeah.
that's 2 Capcom games, both in my top 5.
Yeah. Now, for me, it's an 8.5. I can't give it a 9 because there's too many issues for me with the story. I wish it was just more developed. Like, this game is just not a... It could have been, like, really amazing. Like, oh my god, like, Last of Us kind of good. No, it doesn't have to be Last of Us good, but it has just, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it could have been a lot... The story could have been a lot better, more developed. And that keeps it from a 9 for me. But the gameplay is so strong, and the visuals are so good, and so linear, and it's a great game. It really is a great game. I just don't think it's like an incredible game. That's why I don't give it a 9.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm nitpicking hugely here when I say
we're
this.
we're talking a 0.5 there. Like, it doesn't really...
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
barely...
We might as well basically agree on
if I
that.
round
I
up,
think an
it's a
8.5 is good. I think, honestly, I think even an 8 is fine if, like, you don't like the gameplay as much, or it doesn't jive with you, or if you're let down by some ending stuff. Like, I would even understand an 8, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So the gameplay is so strong, and I love the just the linear nature of it. It's just so refreshing. It's definitely at least an 8. It's an 8.5 for me. If it just developed the story better and the characters, mostly Hugh, better with Diana, and just made it, maybe this game should have benefited from like another 5. Ironically, we talk about Replace being too long. This game kind of
Yes.
might have benefited from another 3 to 5 hours added on.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it could have. I honestly wouldn't have minded if it was a couple hours longer. Because
because
even
the
when I
gameplay is
was
so
at the end
good.
of the
Yeah. So
yeah, the gameplay's so good. Even when I was at the end of the game, I was like, "Is this it?" Because
yeah.
I hadn't watched any YouTube videos or anything, so I wasn't. Not that I spoil myself, but more so like I know how many hours I have left to go. So I don't. So but I hadn't done that with this game. So I was like, "This feels like it's it," but
Right.
like I feel like it's too soon.
Yeah.
So, but it was.
So this game has a great foundation. If this game is going to be a new IP for Capcom, the second game could be like even better, everything
Yeah,
more developed.
that could be incredible.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very excited, and I had a great time. It's 8.5 for me. It's in my top five so far. It's probably gonna be my top 10 by the end of the year. I love Diana. It's iconic. She's gonna be an iconic character. I mean, and I'm very excited. So yeah.
Yeah,
All right, Dory. That's it for the episode. I know we took a week off and everything like that.
we did.
Yep, and we'll see what we do next week. We're gonna talk about Mouse PI and which you beat.
Sure.
And anything else you want to talk about next week? You thinking, or
Uh, I am thinking I might play Songbird, Project Songbird, which came out recently. I have also bought some other 2025 games, or 2026, excuse me, Moses and Plato, Last Train to Clawville, which is a spin-off of the Booster Police series, which is more point and click and investigator kind of stuff. Um, and in visual novel like the Rooster series was. So I might check out those as well, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Mouse PI for sure, though. I'll definitely have some kind of nerdy noir kind of intro next week written up. But yeah, I loved Mouse PI. Spoilers. I'm very excited to talk about it.
all right, you got everybody have. I hope everybody has a great night. Take care, Dory, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.